so important. Hare Krishna. So, 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, entitled The Knowledge of the Absolute. So, in Sanskrit, it's called Vijnana Yoga. Yeah. If you remember, in chapter 4, we have studied the Jnana Yoga. And chapter 7 is Vijnana Yoga, because it's a realized knowledge, it's a complete knowledge. Why this chapter 7 is considered to be a complete knowledge? Because here Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna, explains to all of us about both material knowledge and also spiritual knowledge, para prakriti and apara prakriti. Yeah, so this is complete knowledge. And the second part, the second 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita considered to be the middle part of the Bhagavad Gita is actually dealing with bhakti mostly. Yeah. Well, actually, the entire Bhagavad Gita deals with bhakti. Yeah, the entire Bhagavad Gita deals with bhakti. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is also known as the Yoga Sastra. Yoga Sastra means that Sastra, that literature, which is connected with yoga. And Srila Prabhupada explained what yoga means. Yoga means to connect ourselves to the Supreme Person, to Krishna. So, the Jnana, the Sankhya philosophy, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, we actually started our spiritual journey from that point. That is the basic of spiritual understanding. That is the basic of self-realization. Start with understanding that we are not the body. But of course, understanding that we are not the body, simply up to that level, is not really a complete self-realization. Yeah. Therefore, in this chapter, in chapter 7, we will discuss that how actually complete self-realization can be obtained only through devotional service to Krishna. Because complete self-realization means not only understanding that we are not the body, but we have to understand that where we come from, who is our source, and what is our connection with our source, Krishna, and what we're supposed to do. So that how the complete self-realization is obtained. Therefore, later we will see in text number 3, Krishna says that amongst many people, among millions of men, hardly knows Krishna in truth. Yeah. So the first part of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1 to 6, dealing with Sankhya philosophy, karma. Sankhya is also included, and that part is considered to be guhya or confidential. But this chapter 7 is chapter 7 and 8 considered later, chapter 8 also. 7 and 8 considered to be guhyatara, means more confidential. Yeah. So this chapter is more confidential. And chapter 9 later, it deals with the Raja Vidya Yoga, which is considered to be the guhyatama, most confidential. Yeah. So the 9th chapter and 10th chapter is actually the middle part of the Bhagavad Gita, is considered to be the heart. Therefore, in chapter 10, we see the Chatusloki, the 4 key verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. All right. So chapter 7, knowledge of the Absolute. The first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita deal primarily with Karma Yoga, the middle 6 chapters with Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 chapters with Jnana Yoga. Krishna has explained in chapter 6 that the yogi most intimately united with him was thinking of him within. So that verse was quoted by Braj Vihari Prabhu in the beginning. Yeah, yogi namaha pisarvesam. We know that because in chapter 6, so toward the end, Lord Krishna is explaining like the hierarchy or the grades of different people. Yeah, it starts from the karmis, and then the jnanis, the yogis, and finally among all the yogis, who's the best? Therefore, yoginam api sarvesam, of all yogis, Krishna says, the devotees, the bhakti yoga, those who are the bhakti yogis, those who are practicing bhakti yoga is the best, because they intimately united with Krishna. Now the 7th chapter explains how one can become such a Krishna conscious person. By engaging in devotional service, one gains determined faith, hridavrata, and becomes convinced that simply by such service, all his objectives will be fulfilled. Yeah. So what is our objective here? The objective is that to understand Krishna, to understand Krishna's position, and to understand our position, our sambandha jnana. Yeah. In chapter 2, Krishna already gave us a hint. Yeah. Already gave us a hint saying that if we know the purpose of the Vedas, so we know the essence of the Vedas, just like the all purposes of the small wells is automatically served by a big reservoir of water. Yeah. How did that verse start? Anybody still remember? Yeah. Brahmanasya vijanataha. That's how it says, Brahmanasya vijana. So if we know the purpose of the Vedas, so we know the essence. So this chapter will explain about that, to serve the purpose. Right. So from text number 1 to 7, we'll discuss about knowing Krishna in full by hearing about him. Therefore, the first verse mentioning, Lord Krishna mentioned, Tat Shrinu, means hear from me. Yeah. In chapter 7, Krishna begins to explain how to attain this state. Krishna urges Arjuna to hear with mind attached to him. Yeah. Maya asakta. Asakta means to hear, to attach our mind. Maya asakta manapata. Yeah. As he explained knowledge of himself, yeah, verses 1 to 3. And then he explains how he is the origin of everything, both material and spiritual. Here we will see that verse, yeah, Krishna explains that all these material and spiritual energies emanates from him. And then chapter 7, text 8 to 12, we'll be discussing about knowing Krishna as the source of both material and spiritual energies. Yeah. So Krishna described how he is the essence of everything in verses 8 to 12. If Krishna is the origin and the essence of everything, as explained in text 4 to 12, why do some people not recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Now, this is equation. Yeah, why? We'll discuss that also. And then text 13 to 14, the three modes are controlled by Krishna, therefore must surrender. So there, the famous verse of the how's that verse start? Daivi Hiesha Gunamayi verse, you'll find that. Yeah. All right. So we begin with text number 1. The Maya Sakta Mana Partanta. This is a translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now here, Tat Shrinu. Immediately Krishna told Arjuna, here, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, yoga yunjan, Madhashraya means we are practicing yoga in Krishna consciousness. With mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubts. So this word Tat Shrinu is very significant. Try to hear. In fact, actually, hearing is the foundation, I would say the foundation of our Krishna consciousness practice. Yeah. In fact, when Prahlad Maharaj gave us the list of the Navavida Bhakti, he starts with Sravanam, hearing. Yeah. Hearing is like, just like we built a house, we have a strong foundation. So unless our hearing is strong, if we don't hear on a regular basis, So our Shraddha in practicing Krishna consciousness cannot be strong. Yeah. Well, you may argue that, oh, what about chanting? Yes, chanting is also very, very important. But if you don't hear enough the glories of the holy names, your chanting will be dry. Your chanting will be dry. But if you clearly understand the glories of the holy names, and actually this chanting is giving us the nourishment. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the instruction to Rupa and Sanatan, Mali hoy sei bija aropan, Shravan kirtan jole koroye sechan. Yeah, just like a Mali or a gardener, while growing his seeds that he plants, so he waters that seeds, that plants on the daily basis. So similarly, Shravan kirtan jole koroye sechan. Shravan kirtan koroye sechan means the Shravanam and Kirtanam cannot be separated. You cannot just have only Kirtan. You have to balance your practice with Shravanam also, because this is the process. We are watering our Bhakti Lata beach. The seeds of Bhakti is nourished by these two processes, Shravanam and Kirtanam. Yeah. Important. And not just simply hearing, but hearing with full attention. Sadhyo Hridya Hridya Kriti Susru Subhi Startsana. Yeah. The second verse of the Bhagavatam mentions Susru Subhi, means we have to submissively and attentively hearing. Therefore, Krishna mentioned to Arjuna here, Tat Shrinu, listen from me. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada, of course, he mentioned that he didn't get many chances to meet personally with his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but he said that maybe I met my Guru Maharaj only 4 or 5 times. Yeah, but whenever he gets the chance to meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would listen very carefully from him. So one time he went to Vrindavan and met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That time they were having Govardhan Parikram. So as how we normally do, in one spot, we would stop and tell some pastime. So in one place in Govardhan, so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur started to give a lecture. And it went on for an hour. And then some devotees already, like feeling tired of hearing, and they just left and they continued to walk to do their parikram. But Srila Prabhupada remained there, sit just in the front of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he asked Srila Prabhupada, why you didn't go? Why you don't go? Others already left to continue the parikram. And Prabhupada replied that I just want to hear from a sadhu, because I can get everything from a sadhu. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I noticed that you have very good sense of hearing. You have such an attachment for hearing. You will make progress very quickly. So Prabhupada understand that, yes, this Govardhan will not run. He will stay there. Govardhan will stay there. But first and foremost is to listen from a sadhu. Yeah. Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Dya Badrani Vidunoti Sugrit. So our heart is cleansed by this process, hearing about Krishna. Our heart is cleansed from the Abhadrani. Abhadrani means the unwanted things. So that will be cleansed. Vidunoti means cleansed. So we'll see. Srila Prabhupada purport here. Prabhupada said, one should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Yeah, the Yoginam Ati Sarvesam. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. Yeah, Prabhupada himself mentioned here, first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Tat Shrinu, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna. And therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person. So here is very, very clear. Yeah, unless we hear on a regular basis, we cannot get the nourishment in our Krishna consciousness practice. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the signs of Krishna. Very important. Yeah, we're not only hearing about Krishna, but we should hear from a bona fide sources. Srila Prabhupada many times he condemned this Bhagavad Saptaha, which is conducted by the professional speaker. Yeah, especially here in India, like there are so many such events. But Prabhupada mentioned here, we have to listen from a devotee, from a Tattvavid, Krishna Tattvavid. Jai Krishna Tattva Veda Se Guru Hoy. So that's famous verse mentioning that if somebody knows the signs of Krishna, then he can become a guru. But then come to the basic principle, how to understand about Krishna is only through bhakti. Yeah, only through bhakti. One cannot understand about Krishna simply by studying the Vedas, for example. Yeah. Naham atma pravachanena labhyuna medhayana bahuna srutena. So bahuna srutena means studying the Vedas for many, many years. One cannot understand Krishna. Naham atma pravachanena. Naham atma. Krishna said, no one can understand me. Pravachanena, or simply by becoming an eloquent speaker. No, you cannot. Therefore, Lord Brahma says, Vedeshu durlavam. To understand Krishna by studying the Veda is very, very difficult. Vedeshu durlavam. Durlavam means very difficult. But adurlavam atma bhakta. But that understanding about Krishna will be easily obtained by the process of devotional service. Therefore, Krishna mentioned twice, at least here in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati, in the 18th chapter. And then in the 11th chapter, Krishna mentioned Bhaktya tu Ananya Sakya, only by devotional service. Therefore, what is the qualification? We will see in the beginning of 9th chapter, the qualification of hearing, the qualification to understand Krishna. In fact, if we flash back to the 4th chapter, what is the reason why? Okay, this is a question for all of us here. What is the reason why Lord Krishna chose Arjuna to receive this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita? What is the reason? What is special with Arjuna? Anybody would like to respond on that?
Non-envious Prabhu.
He's a good friend and a devotee.
Non-envious.
Yeah.
Inquisitive to hear, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Arjuna was submissive, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Anagha. He's also Anagha.
Yeah.
Because Arjuna was a devotee of the Lord and the friend of the Lord.
Right. Yeah. Bhaktosimi Sakacheti. Thank you so much. Aparimita Patimataji would like to say something.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So as Prabhuji mentioned, he is a friend and devotee. So that's the main reason. Thank
you. Yes. You all have really wonderful memory that you can recollect immediately the verse. Saevayamaya Tedya Yoga Prapta Puratana Bhakto Sime Sakha Chete Rahashyam Vyeda Dutam. Krishna says that this ancient knowledge I will give now to you because you are my devotee and my friend. Well, we may say that, what about Yudhishthira Maharaj? He may, seems to be very sattvic personality and the senior most among the Pandavas. Why Krishna didn't choose him? Because not only devotee, but Sakachati, very, very close friend of Krishna. Yeah, very, very close friend of Krishna. Therefore, we will see later in the 11th chapter, after Krishna saw his Virat Rupa, Arjuna becomes like terrified and regretted, and he apologized. Hey Krishna, hey Saka, hey Madhava, hey Saketi. Arjuna said that, oh, all this time I just consider you as my friend. We eat together, we sit together, we crack joke together. But now, wow, you are such a great person, you are God. I apologize. But of course, that's like Krishna's special rasa with his own devotees, Arjuna, in the Sakya rasa. So that is the qualification, because we will see in this chapter where Krishna mentioned that Aham prakasa sarvasya yoga maya samavita. Krishna said that I don't reveal myself to everybody. So he chose some specific person. So the qualification is first to become devotee. First to become devotee. Right. And text number 2. Translation, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and luminous, both spiritual and material. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Therefore, this is the complete knowledge, chapter 7. Prabhupada explained, complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. Complete knowledge means we know about the material world, we know about the spirit behind it, and who is the source. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. Here's the answer of that question that I was asking. In the beginning of the 4th chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Okay? So in the lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, just like in the scientific department of colleges, there are, for understanding anything scientifically, there are 2 divisions, practical and theoretical. So jnana is theoretical, and vijnana means practical. Simply to know there is God, this is theoretical knowledge. But when actually you become connected with God, you practice the active godly activities, that is called vijnanam. So Krishna will explain in this chapter the knowledge of God, both theoretically and practically. Jnanam te ham cha vijnanam vakshyami. I shall speak to you. Asheshataha. So ashesha. Shesha means remaining. Ashesha means there's no remaining. So Krishna said that once you know this knowledge, that means you know everything. Once you know this complete knowledge, so there is nothing more to be learned, Krishna says. But of course, Bhagavad Gita is not ended here. We will see again and again, quite a few times Krishna explained. Krishna mentioned to Arjuna that now, in the beginning of chapter 10, Krishna said, now I shall tell you something which is more confidential than whatever I have spoken before. But chapter 9 itself is entitled of the Guhya Yoga. Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga, that's most confidential. But Krishna again mentioned that I'll tell you something which is more confidential. One of the many reasons is that to keep Arjuna remain enthusiastic to hear. So here Arjuna is told by Krishna, after you know this, there is nothing further that you need to learn. Prabhupada mentioned in that lecture, mentioning that our practice, I just paraphrasing it, our practice is not simply a dry practice. It's not simply just like we're studying here, we're studying the Bhakti Shastri, we study the Gita, we study the philosophy. It's not simply to get some information. It's not for that purpose, or just to get the Bhakti Shastri degree or a Bhakti Shastri certificate. But it is a process of purification. Most important is for our purification. By hearing, we get purification. Because what we learn should be put into practice. Then it becomes the vijnana. Realized knowledge means we practice, we put into practice what we have learned. Yeah, that's realized knowledge. Otherwise, it's just simply empty talk. And actually, it's actually between philosophy and theory, it should go hand in hand. As Srila Prabhupada mentioned, philosophy without religion is simply mental speculation, and religion without philosophy is just sentiment. So we are practicing Krishna consciousness with a very strong base. It's not blind faith. Yeah, it's not a blind faith, but we have very strong base. Why we are doing this? Why we are doing that? This is the base. To know simply God is great, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, to know simply God is great is not enough. Just like the Muslim pray, Allahu Akbar. That means God is great, but they don't know how God is great. So how to know how God is great is by hearing about his pastimes, hearing about his glories, what he has done to make he becomes great. Simply knowing that, oh yeah, God is great. Well, you can say that, people can say that, but they don't really understand. But when you know how he is great, then that's something different. For example, like you say to people, oh, mango is sweet, but you never tasted mango. Then it's just simply an empty talk. Unless you taste the mango, then you can't really understand and explain to people how sweet is mango. So that's the example. So this knowledge is also needs to be practiced. Just like the famous quote is chant and be happy. How can we can be happy if we don't chant properly, if we don't put that into practice? Yeah, like Susukam Kartum Avyayam, all this process, this Krishna consciousness process is so enlivening, Susukam, giving so much happiness. But if we don't discuss about Krishna Katha, because that Susukam, that enjoyment, that bliss, that happiness comes when there are devotees, Machita Madgata Prana, and devotees discussing the topic about Krishna Katha. And text number 3, this is one of the famous verses. Manushyanam sahasesu kashin yatati siddhaye yathatama siddhanam kashin mamveti satvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Kashin mamveti satvataha. Krishna says that hardly people knows me in truth. So Manushyanam Sahasra, Sastra means thousands, millions, there are so many. But amongst those million people, maybe hardly attain perfection. And even amongst those who have attained the perfection, hardly one knows Krishna in truth. So what does it mean, perfection here? Why this word is used here? Perfection, siddha. Siddha means perfection. We know that perfect means perfect, complete. That means you know Krishna. But Krishna mentioned here, Manishyanam kachi yatati siddhanam yathatam api siddhanam. So yathatam api siddhanam, amongst those who attain perfection, maybe one, hardly one will know Krishna in truth. So what does it mean, perfection here? What is perfection meant by Krishna here? So that's a question. Anybody would like to respond on that? What perfection means here?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Is it
Yes.
like something understanding like oneself as a soul, and it's a part of the super soul? Super soul is nothing, the supreme or the personality of God and Krishna. And this life is to perfect ourselves, do the bhakti, then go back to Krishna. I'm not sure, just trying to relate.
Thank
That
you
is
so
the
much.
perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Wonderful answer. Yeah. Perfection means the Aham Brahmasmi understanding.
Mm.
Amongst 7 billion people in the world, at least in this planet on Earth, humans, how many of us understand that we are not the body? Yeah. So perfection begins, self-realization begins from Aham Brahmasmi. I am not the body, I am the spirit. So that is perfection. But that perfection is still remain incomplete without bhakti. Yeah. Because the Mayavadis, they also have the understanding that Aham Brahmasmi, I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul. Yeah. The Mayavadis understanding this. Even the liberated person, as the Bhagavatam explains, Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sidurlabha prashantarma kotiswapi mahamuni. Yeah, Muktanam api siddhanam. Among those who have attained the perfection, some of them may get mukta, liberation, muktana, liberation. And even amongst those who are liberated, Narayana Parayana Sudurlabha. Maybe few of them will render devotional service to Lord Narayan. Yeah, so the Mayavadis also, they have this understanding that Aham Brahmasmi, I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul. But that understanding is remain incomplete. All right, compared to other people, they are considered to be perfect. But compared to the Vaishnavas, they're far away behind, yeah, remain incomplete. So that's the purpose.
I have a question. Like as you were
Yeah.
explaining, out of many liberated souls, few can understand.
Yeah.
So I got confused because I was in an understanding with the Bhakti Marg, we can understand the Lord and then transcend ourselves and liberate. So that means understanding Krishna is first,
Yeah.
then transcendent ourselves, then liberation is the last phase.
Right.
We'd like to
Yes, yes. Interesting. Sometimes there are some few statements by Srila Prabhupada mentioning that, for example, in that verse, Brahma Bhuta verse, yeah, in the 18th chapter, Brahma Bhuta Prashana, Manasu Chakrina, Sama Sarvesu Bhutesu Mad Bhakti. First, one has to be liberated, yeah, situated in the Brahma Bhuta level, Brahma Bhuta platform. Then one can, with full determination, perform devotional service. But in one hand, as you correctly mentioned, that first we have to perform devotional service. Then ultimately we attain liberation. All right. So here is the key point here. Liberation, of course, bhakti begins, there is a one statement by Srila Prabhupada, bhakti begins after liberation. Yeah. But if we analyze further, one can start performing bhakti from any stage of life. Yeah. So before liberation also. But as Srila Rupa Goswami explained in Acts of Devotion, if you still remember that how the jivas get entangled in the material world is first and foremost, the root cause is that avidya, ignorance. Because of ignorance, we come here. Yeah, because of ignorance, we come here, avidya. But when one gets in touch with the devotees and get the transcendental knowledge, hear from the devotees, Rupa Goswami explained, that's how his journey toward liberation is open. Yeah, that's how his journey toward liberation is open. So liberation means here when one just free from ignorance, the avidya, one is actually considered to be liberated. So when we perform bhakti, of course, the liberation that we understand is that when we go back home, back to Godhead, that's also another understanding of liberation. Yeah. So it's actually goes hand in hand, between liberation, whether liberation first or bhakti first. But when one, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, but when one just begins the devotional service, he's actually liberated. Maybe not completely liberated, but Srila Prabhupada mentioned one cannot judge a person is dirty while he's under shower. So we are on the path of that liberation, complete liberation. But please keep in mind that actually our purpose of practicing bhakti is not simply to attain liberation. Liberation is, a bonus. Liberation is automatically achieved. Our main focus here is that just to please Krishna. Therefore, Rupa Goswami explained one of the 6 symptoms of pure devotional service is moksha lagutakrit. Pure devotee even reject liberation. So like that. But in that verse of the Bhagavatam, Muktana, what liberation means? That liberation implies for the impersonal liberation. Because the Brahma Jyoti is also a spiritual, I would say, realm, but it's just on the border. It's just on the border. One gets liberation there, but because there is no bhakti, there is no performance of bhakti, then he has to return. But even Brahma Jyoti also considered to be liberation. Yeah. So that verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam Muktana Mahaprasiddhana, that applies for the impersonal liberation. And when Devahuti explained in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam about these 5 types of liberation, Salokya, Sarsi, Samvidya, Salukya, Ekatva, that Ekatva is rejected by devotees, or Sayujya Mukti is rejected by devotees. Yeah, but still that's liberation. Yeah, to merge with the Brahma Jyoti is also liberation, but not complete liberation, because we have to calm down again. Yeah. So when one performs bhakti, he is considered to be liberated. And as we perform more devotional service, so that heading toward the spiritual world, which is another level of liberation, will be obtained. Yeah. Will that solve the puzzle?
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I saw one hand up. Who was that? Prabhu, while I was.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Amol. Actually, I was also asking same question that liberation is not the final goal for devotees, right? So you clarified in between. So I just.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhupada's purport. Anybody would like to read Srila Prabhupada's purport?
So I can read, Prabhu. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. It's very difficult for the non-devotees to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned here that yes, bhakti is easy, but if we really go into it, it's not at all easy. Yeah. So the understanding is like this: bhakti is easy compared to any other path, such as karma and jnana. Compared to any other path, bhakti is way much more easier. Yeah. But it's not at all easy. It's not at all easy when we really practice it. Well, come back to each of individual. Actually, easy is for the easy, tricky is for the tricky, right? If we sincere, bhakti will be very easy. Yeah, but you know, like here, for example, like following the four regulative principles, so we have to get up early for Mangala Arati, things like this, you know. For some devotees, that's so easy. But for some, maybe very, very challenging. For some, maybe very, very challenging. I know one devotee that he having very tough time, difficulties to get up for Mangala Arati. He has like terrible spirit to go up, to get up early in the morning for Mangala Arati. But for some people, to get up for Mangala Arati is easy. It's just like that. You know? So that's depend on our sincerity and attitude also. Yeah. So bhakti is easy compared to any other part. But bhakti is not easy in the sense of we have to, you know, restrict our senses. We have to do this. We have to do our sadhana. Yeah. So in that sense, it's not at all easy. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada used to say that don't think that this Radha and Krishna is very, very cheap. Yeah, in a lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, don't think that this Radha and Krishna is very, very cheap. It is nonsense. Prabhupada said. So in one lecture, I was hearing Srila Prabhupada mention that just try to understand Krishna and your life will become successful. Probably some of you may have heard this statement directly from Srila Prabhupada's recording. Prabhupada clearly mentioned, just try to understand Krishna and your life will become successful. And then in another lecture, I heard also Prabhupada mention, don't even try to understand Krishna. What is your qualification to understand Krishna? So seemingly Prabhupada giving us two different controversies. First, Prabhupada said, just try to understand Krishna, your life will become successful. In another lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, don't try to understand Krishna. What is your qualification to understand Krishna? Yeah. That's interesting. I found it interesting. But of course, we have to try our best to understand Krishna. So up to this point, Lord Krishna is emphasizing to Arjuna that yes, you have to understand me through hearing, and to understand Krishna is not at all easy. Okay? And then from this text, text number 4 to 12, Krishna will explain about knowledge about his energies, both para and apara, yeah, superior and inferior energy. So text number 4, Bhumir apo nalo vayo kammanu budir evacha ahankara ikiyamit ina prakriti. So Krishna mentioned here these 8 items, yeah? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energy. So this is the the inferior energy or the Bahir Anga Sakti of the Lord. Yeah. This is the material energy of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada discusses about the Purusa avatars in his purport. And Prabhupada made this point, anyone who knows these 3 Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. Okay, so these 3 Purusa incarnations, yeah, Mahavishnu, or Karanudakasai Vishnu, Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and Kshirodakasai Vishnu. And Srila Prabhupada explained, one who knows these 3 Vishnus, his liberation is guaranteed. So what is the logic here? Okay, now all of us know, yes, there are 3 Vishnus, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and Kshirodakasai Vishnu. Okay, I know this. Does it mean that I'm liberated? Is that easy to get liberation simply by knowing the 3 Vishnus? What is the logic here? What is the purport behind it? Anybody would like to respond on that? Prabhupada clearly mentioned here, simply by knowing the 3 Vishnus, one is liberated.
There's a difference between knowing and actually realizing that. One is just the book knowledge, but one actually really experiencing that is a different level of knowledge and understanding.
Right. Thank you so much, Madhavi. Yes, there is a big difference between simply knowing and understanding or realizing. When we get this transcendental knowledge, spiritual knowledge, that yes, if we do some research, from A to Z, ultimately we'll come to Krishna, and we are forced to surrender to Krishna. Like this material world, how this material world with all the intricacy and complexity is created. Okay, it's Mahavishnu, he just exile and the millions of universes appear, and Garbhodakasaya Vishnu enters into each universe, and then Kshirodakasaya Vishnu even enter as Paramatma and entering into each atom. But this Sri Vishnu, what is the source of this Sri Vishnu? The Sri Vishnu comes from the second Chaturvyuha, which has come from the first Chaturvyuha. The first Chaturvyuha comes from Balaram, and Balaram is the first expansion of Lord Krishna. So if we do this kind of research, upward, we will go toward Krishna. And we as the Jivas understand that yes, Krishna is the source. And that will be explained by Lord Krishna in this very chapter. Krishna is the source. So we naturally become humble and we must surrender to Krishna. So in that way, we get liberated. Yeah. And not only philosophically, as nowadays Sachimataji mentioned, that we have to practice it. Yeah. Understanding the sambandha is one thing, the relationship is one thing, but when we put into practice that understanding, the avidya, the bhakti, and then we can attain our goal. Yeah, generally, one who does not know the science of God, Krishna, assumes that this material world is for the enjoyment of the living entities, and that the living entities are the purusas, the causes, the controllers, the enjoyers of the material energy. According to Bhagavad Gita, this atheistic conclusion is false. In the verse under discussion, it is stated that Krishna is the original cause of the material manifestation. Okay. So that is our tendency to enjoy it. Yeah. What is the purpose of this material world is created? Yes, one of the many purposes is to enjoy. Icha Dvesa Samudana, that verse will come in this chapter. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But this is the misunderstanding. We think that this material world, somebody can remember it. Yeah. We think that this material world is created for us to enjoy, but actually not. It is created for us for our rectification. So just like jail is just a small part of a country, right? Just a little part of a country. And that jail is meant for the criminals. And that jail is meant to rectify the behavior of the criminals by training, by punishment, whatever. So similarly, from the total creation, the material world is just small part. It's just 1/4 of the creation. And the 3/4 is the spiritual dimension. So this material universe is just a little corner of the total creation of Lord Krishna. And that is like the jail, meant for the criminals. In one class, Prabhupada mentioned, even Brahma, even Lord Brahma is also a criminal. It's also a criminal. Now that's a very heavy statement. Like 2 months ago, I was in Indonesia. So I was invited to give a class, and I mentioned that Srila Prabhupada mentioned that even Brahma is also a criminal. And then one devotee objected that statement. Objected that statement. How can he is a criminal? He is one of the Mahajanas. Yeah. Swayambhu Narada is Swayambhu. He's self-born. He's born from the Lord himself. How is a criminal? Well, Prabhupada explained that first of all, anybody who comes here is a criminal because he has the tendency to enjoy. He doesn't like that, oh, why in the spiritual world, he doesn't like, oh, why only Krishna is the Purusha, he is the master, he is the enjoyer, he meant to be served. I also want to, control over something. Then Krishna created this. As Srila Prabhupada gave a very nice analogy. Yeah. Therefore, in Srila Prabhupada's purport, there are many analogies throughout the Gita especially, and that we have to learn here in this course of Bhakti Shastri, to give the comparison. Srila Prabhupada said, for example, a mother is cooking, and then the little daughter or the little son also wants to cook. So, and then he or she start nagging, oh, mommy, I also want to cook. So what the mother does, so she set up in one small corner in that house, kitchen toys, like small stove, whatever spoon it is for the kid to play. And the mother would tell, okay, now you go there, in that corner, you cook there. So similarly, we also like that. We complain to Krishna, oh Krishna, I also want to be in charge. But in the spiritual world, Krishna is the Parameshwara, he is the topmost enjoyer. Therefore, we are given this small corner of the material world to exhibit that tendency to lord it over. Prabhupada used this word. Sometimes I thought, if I don't practice this Krishna consciousness, I will not find the word like lord it over. Prabhupada used this word, yeah, to lord it over the material world. That's the cause of our material entanglement. We are here because we want to exhibit this. But as we try to lord it over, Maya, Krishna's energy, will always kick us in every step. Then finally we will realize, yes, this is not my place. And finally we have to develop desire, attitude, to go back home, back to Godhead again, and become the eternal servant of the Lord, assuming our own swarup as the eternal servant of the Lord. So that's our tendency. And then this text number 5, describing about the para-prakriti. So text number 4 about apara, the external. This is about the para-prakriti. Yeah? Aparayamitastvanyam prakritim vidime param. Jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam daryate java. Besides this means those 8 elements mentioned by Krishna. Almighty Arjuna. There is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Yeah. So although we know that the living entities, the jivas, are actually situated in the border, in between. Yeah? Therefore, the jiva is known as the Tatastha Sakti. Yeah? We know that there is Antaranga Sakti, Tatastha Sakti, and Bahiranga Sakti. And the jivas, as mentioned here, is the spiritual energy, as is the para-prakriti of the Lord. But the jiva is situated in between, as the Tatastha Sakti, in between, although its origin is above. Yeah. Why we are situated in between? Because we have that minute independency given by the Lord to choose whether we want to be with Krishna or we want to be with Maya. Yeah. So we have this freedom and we fall down here because of that freedom, then we may argue, we may ask, then why Krishna would give us that freedom? If Krishna doesn't give us that freedom, we will not be in trouble now in the material world. Well, the answer is that if Krishna doesn't give us the freedom, then there is no question of love. There is no question of love. Yeah. And that freedom is also very, very minor. Yeah, minor independence. Very little. When we misuse this little independency, that's how we fell down. Yeah. But still, Krishna give us this independency because he loves us. And if Krishna wants us to surrender, he wants us to surrender with love, not by force. You know, there are two types of surrender. When you point a gun on somebody's head like this, that's also surrender. Another type of surrender is that willingly surrender. Yeah, that willing surrender is wanted by Krishna. Yeah. So the jivas here is actually exploiting the nature. That's how the nature moves. Yeah, just like a car without a driver cannot move. So the jiva, the word exploiting here means the jiva is moving the material or the Bahiranga Shakti. So here it is explained about Paraprakriti or superior energy, the internal potency, or the jiva, yeah, or the atma. Therefore, the position of the jiva and Krishna is actually Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. Yeah. We are Atma, Krishna is also an Atma, but he is Param Atma. He is the Vibhu, he is the greatest, and we are Anu. Anu means just small part. Vibhu Amsa and Anu Amsa. So Paraprakriti means superior energy, and Aparaprakriti is the opposite. Yeah, the inferior energy, the external energy, or the nature Prakriti. Prabhupada says the living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic. And therefore, living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. Interesting here, Srila Prabhupada mentioned they have no independent existence. Yeah, we are all subordinate to Krishna. Although, as I mentioned earlier, Krishna gave us independency. But do we really have this independency in the material world? No, we're always being subordinate. Even the president or a king. One may think that, oh, he's a king, he's a president, he's a controller. But still, he has to serve someone or something. So in that way, he's subordinate. So we have this independency, but ultimately, we are not at all independent. We are not at all independent. Yeah. We are subordinate, completely subordinate. So that's about text 4 and 5. Yeah. Aparaprakriti and Paraprakriti. Text number 6. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. So it's clear. Yeah. Krishna is the source of everything. Prabhupada explained everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wrote this book. That life comes from life. Life cannot come from matter. Prabhupada would condemn the scientists, who is saying that, oh, we will create life. They already spend many years. They spend billions, trillions of dollars to do their experiments to create life. Still, they cannot prove that. Because life comes from life without soul. This body is just, Prabhupada said, a dead body. It's just a dead body. Useless. This material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because that superior energy, spirit soul, is present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the super soul, Vishnu. Okay? So that's like very easy logic to understand that without the soul, this body cannot grow. And the fact is that the soul is sometimes, people get attracted to somebody. Someone get attracted to somebody, boy get attracted to a girl, or in the opposite direction, girls to a boy. They thought that, oh, because he is handsome or she's beautiful, she's smart, or he is capable of doing this. But actually, why people get attracted to someone? Because of the jiva present in the body. Nobody would fall in love to a dead body. No, it doesn't matter how beautiful she is or how handsome he is. If the jiva is missing, you may get scared. Yeah. So that's tiny part, 1/10,000 part of the body is actually most important part. And people don't understand this. And there is also a description that the soul for this universe is the Vishnu, Garbhodakasai Vishnu. He enters into each universe, and is the soul. So here Krishna explains both the spiritual and material energies. Krishna is the source, Krishna is the origin, and the dissolution. Okay. And everything is connected to Krishna because he is the source. This is the famous verse. Mata parakaram nandya kinchidasti dhananjaya mani sarvamidam protam sute mani ganaiva. Anybody would like to read the translation of this classic famous verse?
Hare Krishna. Can I read?
Sure. Please go ahead.
O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread.
Yeah. You continue with this purport. You can see the screen here.
Okay, I'm not. There is a common controversy over whether the supreme absolute truth is personal or impersonal. That the personality of Godhead is the supreme absolute truth is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The impersonalist, however, agrees on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Sveteshwara Upanishad 3.10. Tato yad. I'm not able to see.
Okay, I'll read the Sanskrit. You will continue with the English.
Tato yad utharathara.
I'll read it.
Okay.
I'll read it. Tato yad uttarataram tad arupam. I highlighted this. Tad arupam anamayam ya edad vidur amritaste bhavanti atetare dukam evapi yanti.
Okay. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and the lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is a transcendence who has no material form and is free from all material contamination. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffers the miseries of the material world.
Right. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So as it is mentioned in text number 6 of Krishna, it's almost 7:30 and we just 7th verse. So as it is mentioned in the verse number 6, that Krishna is both the source of both material and spiritual energy. Yeah, material and spiritual energy. So naturally, there is nothing can be separated from Krishna. Just like Krishna said, "Sute mani ganaiva," just like pearls strung on a thread. Yeah, mata paratara na anya. There is no superior truth than me. So there is nothing actually separated from Krishna. Although our intention to be in this material world, we want to be separated from Krishna, enjoying separately from Krishna. Yeah, but we cannot actually separate ourselves completely from Krishna. Yeah. So, of course, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about whether God is impersonalist or person, whether God is person or imperson, saguna or nirguna. This is the word, saguna or nirguna. So the word arupam in that verse, which is quoted by Srila Prabhupada, that word arupam means without form, without rupa, without form. And that verse is mostly used by the Mayavadi to justify their philosophy, their statement that actually God has no existence. Arupam. But Srila Prabhupada explained this arupam or nirguna means it is not that he is without form, but he is without material form. Yeah, he is without material form. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also explained that actually the Mayavadis are actually the greatest offender. Therefore, one should not hear the commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita, especially from a Mayavadi. Mayavada bhasha sunile hoy sarvanas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if one hears the explanation, the commentaries from the Mayavadi, hoy sarvanas, all one's devotion will be destroyed. Yeah. So because the Mayavadi, as mentioned by Krishna in this chapter, yeah, avyaktam vyaktim apanam manyantemam abhudayaha. Buddha means intelligence. Abhuda means not at all intelligence. Yeah. So this word arupam or nirguna implies for God has form. He has no material form. Yeah. So arupa means no material form. Okay. So that's the understanding about this purport. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned here that anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental. Yeah. So we have to understand that Krishna is the source and nothing can be separated. Otherwise, if we think that we can separate ourselves from Krishna, that's how our journey of miseries start. For example, like Lakshmi or money. If we see the connection of that money with Krishna, so there you go. We will use that money for Krishna service and make our life successful. But when we see that money as the source of my sense pleasure, that's how we disconnect ourselves from Krishna. That's how we suffer. Yeah. Sri Vishnurata Chakravarti Thakur once mentioned that just like a fish taken out from the water, it doesn't matter whatever you give to the fish on the land. You give a soft bed, you give so much money, you give nice food, the fish will remain suffering without water. The only way how to make the fish happy is to connect this fish to the water. So similarly, the jivas, artificially we try different things with, in the 21st century, with different modern technologies, we try to gratify our senses. But are we really happy? Not really, because we miss that connection with Krishna. Here is a quotation of Srila Prabhupada's lecture, where he mentioned Krishna is present everywhere because everything is resting on him, on his energies, just like a big factory. The proprietor may be out of the factory, but every worker is aware that this factory belongs to such and such a person. As this is possible to have always a consciousness of the proprietor of the factory by the worker. Similarly, it is possible for everyone, Prabhupada said, for everyone to become Krishna conscious in every activity. This is the philosophy we are trying to preach all over the world. So Krishna conscious. Krishna consciousness means we conscious about Krishna. We are able to see everything in connection to Krishna. So this is Krishna consciousness. We are utilizing Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. We are utilizing everything in Krishna service. So this is Krishna consciousness. Yeah? Conscious of Krishna all the time. Although we may not directly sing Krishna, but in this chapter, Krishna will give us a way how we can see Krishna in everything. It starts with the taste of water. Krishna is the taste of water. Yeah, Rasoham Apsukanteya. Many times when Srila Prabhupada sip water, Prabhupada would quote this verse, Rasoham Apsukanteya. Oh, Krishna is the taste of water. So in this way we can ever connected to Krishna. Yeah, we will see Krishna in every aspect. Not only seeing Krishna in a picture, seeing Krishna in the deity form, but in everything. I'd like to narrate a pastime of Srila Prabhupada that crossed my mind. Actually, in fact, one of my favorite things to hear is Srila Prabhupada's memory series by his different disciples. It's available in YouTube. Yeah, it's interesting. Different devotees, different disciples would narrate Srila Prabhupada's pastime. Yeah? So there was one devotee, Srila Prabhupada's disciple. His name is Sudama. Sudama, probably you know him. He's like dark body, African body, but he's from America. So once he got the chance to serve Srila Prabhupada as his personal servant, along with Govinda Dasi Mataji. So one time he saw Srila Prabhupada in his room. So Srila Prabhupada slightly opening his door. Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his bed and looking toward the windows. So through that window, Srila Prabhupada could see the field. And Srila Prabhupada was crying when this Sudama Prabhu entered Srila Prabhupada's room. So he was asking Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, why are you crying? And Prabhupada said that it is only by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj I could see that little blue boy in a yellow dhoti tending his cows in that field. So Prabhupada just looked into that window. So Sudama Prabhu, we understand that actually Srila Prabhupada is seeing Krishna, witnessing Krishna. And he said that suddenly he also cried. And Prabhupada asked, Sudama, why are you crying? And Sudama Prabhu said that, Prabhupada, so much love you have for your spiritual master. So the point here is that when one is sincere, a pure devotee would always see Krishna in every aspect, in everything. Yomam pasyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pasyati. Tasyaham na pranasyami sachami na pranasyati. Krishna said, Yomam pasyati sarvatra, one who can see me in everything, and sarvam chamai pasyati, and one who can see that everything is in me. Yeah. So he never separated from Krishna. So we may not on that level of Srila Prabhupada that he can see directly Krishna. But if we just appreciating Krishna's energy, actually we are connecting ourselves to Krishna through his energy. Yeah, that's how it works. All right. We have 8 minutes. I don't know how far we can go. This is another part of discussion from text 8 to 12. Knowing Krishna as the source of both material and spiritual energy. So from here, text number 8 to 12, Krishna is giving us ways how we can perceive him. Yeah? As I mentioned here, started from Rasoam Apsutam Jaya. Prabhasmi Sasisu Yayoho. He is the source of the light of the sun and moon. Yeah. Surya, Sashi Suryayo. Pranava Sarvavedesu Sabdake Paurusam Rishu. The syllable of Om in the Vedic mantras. And Krishna says, I am the sounds in ether and ability in man. So when we see all these things, like when we're experiencing the taste of water, we have to understand that is Krishna. When we see the light of the sun and moon, Krishna is the source. And this syllable, the pranava, the Om, that is also Krishna. Yeah, in the Vedic mantras, all the Vedic mantras start with the Om. Of course, this Om is actually the impersonal aspect of Krishna. Yeah, Om. Just like we say, Mr. President. That Mr. President is a designation, but that president is a person. So similarly, this word Om is the impersonal form of the Lord. Yeah? And in every Vedic mantras, they start with the Om. Yeah? So that Om, and also what is mentioned here, the ability in man. So the prowess of a powerful man is Krishna. So when you see somebody is powerful, or when you feel that you are powerful, the source is Krishna. Yeah. Practically speaking, Srila Prabhupada said, there is no conflict between personalism and impersonalism. Again, Srila Prabhupada talked about that. One who knows God knows the impersonal conception and personal conception are simultaneously present in everything, and there is no contradiction. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya established his sublime doctrine, Achintya Veda, Veda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. Yeah. So this is regarding this Om, impersonal. But of course, there are 3 levels of absolute truth understanding, as it is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan, Visabhyate. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yaj jnanam adayam. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan, Visabhyate. So the Brahma Jyoti aspect also an absolute truth, but it is like the lowest understanding, lowest level of realization of the absolute truth. And then second level is the Paramatma realization, and then the Bhagavan realization, the complete, the summum bonum, Krishna, summum bonum. So number 9, Punyo Gandha Pritivyam Cha Tejas Chasmi Bhavasu Jivanam Sarva Bhutesu Tapas Chasmi Tapasasi. I am the original fragrance of earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. So this is all Krishna. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals and all material elements are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Therefore, by the grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life or diminish it. So Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere. Yeah. So please read this till text number 12 in your own timing. Yeah. And finally, Krishna says here in text number 12, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I'm not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Yeah. So those are the ways how we can perceive Krishna's presence through his energy. Yeah. Nothing is separated from Krishna. So that's the point from text number 8 to 12. Yeah. So I would like to stop here. Our time is up. We have like 2 minutes. Whether any devotees have some questions or comments before we stop and continue next week. Yes. What is this? 34 and 30, 48. Sarva Pawan.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, please.
Dandavad Pranam. Prabhu, in Shloka 7.5, you were explaining Para Prakriti. You mentioned that Jiva is the internal potency, which is superior energy of the Lord. Elsewhere, we also hear that the living entities are the marginal potency, the Tatastha Shakti. So how do we understand, Prabhu? At one place, it's mentioned marginal potency, and here we see as internal potency.
Right. Thank you so much. Well, as I already explained in that part of our discussion, yes, the Jiva is originally comes from Krishna. I mean, everything comes from Krishna, but Jiva belongs to that category. Krishna mentioned here there are two types of his energy, Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. So the Apara is the Bahiranga Shakti, and the Para Prakriti is his internal potency, including the Jiva. Yeah, but Jiva situated in the Tatastha Shakti because Krishna has given him minute independency. That's the key point here. That minute independency that makes the Jiva independent to choose whether he wants to be with Krishna or with Maya. But originally he comes from, he belongs to that category of Para Prakriti. Yeah, belong to that category of Para Prakriti. We are all, as we know, we are all from originally from the spiritual world. We are all from the spiritual world. Yeah. So we are the Jivas. Mama Ivam Jiva Loke Jiva Buddha Sanatana. We are part and parcel of Krishna. That means we are actually, in one sense, non-different from Krishna, but in quality. In quality, we same as Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, but in quantity we different. Yeah. So with that understanding that Krishna gives the Jivas the minute independency, that puts him in the category of Tatastha Shakti or marginal potency because he has the right to choose. But originally, we belong to that internal or what do you call this? Para Prakriti. Yeah, the superior energy of the Lord. Therefore, the superior would naturally exploit the inferior. So without the Jivas, nature cannot move. Yeah. So that's the understanding.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks.
All right. I thank you very much. Actually, I was discussing with Nawadip Sachi Mataji that I would like to finish one chapter in every class, but it seems like, when we discuss one thing, another thing would appear in mind and it just goes on like that. That's the nature of Krishna Katha. So, but hopefully, we should finish this chapter by next meeting, and also we should touch the 8th chapter. 8th chapter is, there are 28 slokas, so we will see how we proceed. I hope that you would be patient enough to tolerate my pace. Hare Krishna. Thank you.